everybody. Welcome to the first deck review of Dromai with Gregory Patellis, the winner of our local RTN. So, today we have with us Gregory Patellis, who won the local RTN with Dromai, the As artist. Greetings, Patellis.
Hello.
Okay, so it's I think it's I haven't seen any other Dromai's winning RTN. Dromai is pretty one of the newest heroes from the Uprising set, who was not really popular at the beginning when the spoiler season was up, but it looks like you had a different opinion about it.
Uh,
So, tell us a bit about the deck.
yeah, so we had the same opinion during the spoiler season. Okay, so this deck the, was mostly inspired by a friend of ours, Yanis Kouris. And then I got on the hype train. I liked it. I really liked the hero, even though at first I thought it wasn't really powerful. And we tested together. We kind of tuned it together. And let's first say that this is not the final form of the deck. It's not fully tuned. There is always room for improvement in this deck.
All right, so why Dromai? Why did you end up on such a hero?
Okay. First of all, I used to play Prism all these last months. So to jump from one illusionist to the other is kind of a logical decision. But I really like the fact that, like Prism, you have cards that stay on board. Okay, that you play them this round, and next round they're still on board. So you can play a somewhat very defensive uh, game and chip damage here and there. So this is mostly a defensive deck.
All right, so a bit traditional about the Illusionist, having this slower playstyle that we've seen mostly from Prism in the last season.
Yeah.
So, do you have what's? I'd like a bit to discuss about some of the card choices, and mostly figure out the core of the deck. I mean, what's the cards that mostly on the, let's say, main deck that are not cut in most matchups, and talk about a bit how the deck is expected to play out during a normal turn.
Okay. What are the staples of the deck? The staples of the deck are, first of all, the cheap dragons. So dragons with 0, 1, and 2 cost. Um, and of course, rake the embers. These are always there because what you mainly want to do is to have many ass wings. Okay, playing dragons is cool, is nice, but the most important thing is to have many 1/1 little dragons. Okay, so for this purpose, you need ass. Okay, you need ass tokens, and and you need every card that you can pitch and give you such a token. Every card that can create little dragons from these tokens. But it's also a defensive deck, so we have our 6 defending actions, Sink Belows and Faith for Sins. We have some covers and Gnosis Respite. They're also very useful cards. And we have our Sigil of Solace. That's pretty much it. Also, Burn Them All and Uprising are staples because they're zero-cost red cards, drop for 3, and can give you go again with one card around. Okay?
All right.
Uh, yeah. So, with most matchups, you don't need that many blues. You will just have 3 in the deck, the Passing Mirage, and it's mostly a card that you will play, not pitch. And we also have 3 yellow Rake Embers. With a cheap deck, you defend a lot, and you play one or two cards per turn usually.
Okay, all right. So what I'm saying is you want the game to go as a bit late. You want to get to this board state where your dragons are doing most of the job, and you get all these insane value of. I mean, if you do have
Yeah.
the resources, paying a zero cost to make a dragon and swing with pretty much everything seems like an amazing, tempo game. So, could we also talk a bit about the equipment that you chose to run on this deck?
Yes. So we chose our Skullcap over Crown of Providence because we usually need that one extra defense. We usually lower. We have usually lower life than the opponent, so we can take advantage of it. And especially against decks with on-hit effects and with 4 or 7 attacking power, like Briar, for example. This one is very important. So we went with Skullcap. We don't need to cycle our hand that much and filter it. So okay, Providence is a very good card, but not for this deck. The Furnace chest is an auto include. It
Yeah,
it features.
it felt pretty much like Fernand's was the card for Dromai, not so much for
Yeah,
fire.
exactly. You can create extra ash counters with it. You can get extra resources to play your game, especially in some difficult matchups that you need more resource. Um, and now for the two most discussed choices, we went with the stilettos because we didn't think the footsteps had that much of an impact. We don't play phantasm attack action cards, and even if we did, we would play only Dune Breaker, Sunny Pie, and Spears of Surreality. So we didn't think that this would be a good trade, um, especially considering what we would leave out of the deck. And the stilettos have the arcane barrier, which is useful in some matchups, even if you have your extra arcane barrier from the Ashwings. And once in a while, you can, but not that often. You can also go for its effect in order to gain an action point,
Yeah, it's
which you
interesting.
cannot do with other footsteps.
I think have we ever seen a deck that runs like its main deck with like just 3 blue cards? That's I just noticed it only runs 3 blue cards. It's a 57 red card deck. I mean,
Well, 54 plus 3 yellows, but yes.
all right. So okay,
and
so
to
mhm, sorry.
and just for the arms,
Mhm.
we have Silken Form, which is very very useful because the quell mechanic can get us out of very difficult situations many times, and it also creates another small dragon, which is always useful. But at some matchups, you have to include Ghostly Touch instead.
All right, so Ghostly Touch. I honestly want to ask how this card has been used so far with the Ghostly
Yeah,
Touch.
yeah. I don't know if it's the best worst card or the worst best card. I I don't know. I didn't really like Ghostly Touch, but it seems that it turns out that it is pretty much necessary against against heroes with too many poppers, like the Guardians and the Brutes, because you can rack up many tokens there, many font counters, yeah, on Ghostly Touch, and first of all, and most important, you discourage them from playing a fatigue game because if they do so, they will get a very very big attack from Ghostly Touch, and is what we why we have semblance in our sideboard. When you include Ghostly Touch, you include all blues, okay, or most of them, depends on the matchup. But you play with at least 9 blues in your deck.
when Ghostly Touch gets side in, so you mean you need
Yeah,
all the blues? Yeah, it makes sense.
yeah. And at some point, mid game or late game, you can arsenal semblance, and then you can defend until you find your break and deal a big amount of damage. You will have chipped some damage until then. You usually do, even if they break everything. They can break everything with pops. So that's the game plan against these matchups. If they choose to go fatigue, if they don't, you play more or less the same plan. That you defend, you attack. Maybe they'll break. Maybe they'll pop your attack, your dragon. Maybe not. But you do the same, and usually this does the trick for you.
All right. Well, it seems like Dromai has a lot of ways to work around the pops from the opponent. I mean, I see that you have 3 copies of Mirage Eye and 3 copies of Passing Mirage and main deck. And are these cards never cut? Are these cards never off the deck?
No, they're always there.
Yeah, okay, so it has great ways of dealing with the interaction of it's not as bad, I'm guessing it was with Prism. But I'd like to ask you a bit more about some matchups. What do you feel are the best matchups for this deck, and what do you feel are the more like the weaknesses of this deck?
Yeah. So we, if if I recall correctly, we found out together that one of its best matchups is Oldhim.
Is against Ultim, yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah,
horrible. It was horrible.
it was horrible, and I thought I would be crushed. I thought that okay, if I can manage to somehow sneak a victory against Oldhim, it will be a big thing. But it turns out that I was like over 30 life, right?
Yeah, I mean, we made I had a list for an old team I was about to play on the recent RTN that I had Dromai in my mind. I had a
Sorry.
lot of 7 disables, all these blues attack that can pop dragons, and I would feel like the matchup should be good, but it was horrible. I mean, it was the worst evening of my life having to play off against Dromai in order to figure out. But yeah, I mean, I think old team is off the table against this deck.
Yeah, that's what I think. I mean, people can prove us wrong at some point,
What
right.
about the other Guardian? What about Bravo?
Okay, I played Bravo against Bravo on turn one of the RTN,
Hmm.
and ironically enough, against Yanis, the guy that began building the deck, and we tuned it together. Who chose to play the original Bravo, and he tried to fatigue me, and at some point we when it ended, I had like 2 3 cards in my deck when I actually swung, uh, did the swing with the costly touch for 12 or 13, something like that, and that pretty much settled the game.
All right,
Uh,
but it went to that point. I mean, Ghostly Touch managed to get 13 counters or something.
it did because Yanis could both fatigue me and swing to me for some damage. So it was a very difficult match. I think it's it's not that much against Dromai. That much. It's not that much for Dromai. Bravo can win against Dromai. Dromai can win against Bravo as well.
Yeah, it's not as
Maybe Bravo has a slight advantage, I guess.
an
I'm not sure.
advantage.
I haven't played the matchup enough.
All right, yeah. I mean, there are with all these new heroes, there are many matchups that haven't been tested
Yeah,
so let's
certainly.
figure. Okay,
But
so let's go on
if
from
you,
for another popular deck like now in the meta. So, but before we move forward, so what would you say should be the sideboard plan with this deck against Guardian?
okay, so against Guardian, Erase Face and Fiendles is not will remain on the side. You don't really need Tomaltai. You will prefer Dominia for Bravo. and Tomeltai again is holding for Crown of Seeds, you will probably get rid of Command and Conquer to squeeze all these blues in, and probably say goodbye to Necria as well.
To
Uh,
Necria.
not, not
Alright.
not because it's a bad card; it's a very good card, but we have to stay in a reasonable number of cards. So this would be the one you take away because it's a 3 cost and it's not easy every round to. In most rounds, it's not easy to play such a dragon.
Alright, and what gets in, I'm guessing, is Semblance.
Semblance and 3 blues and 3 more blues. I think you would leave 2 blues out. I guess the way the deck is now, 3 semblance, 2 blue sweeping blows, and one of this rounds on me, just because it's blue. And it blocks for 3, so
Okay, and you're
yeah.
running with Ghostly Touch rather than a Silter form, of
And you
course.
will run with Costly Touch, exactly. Exactly.
Alright, so let's move forward to another popular deck that's been played right now, which is Ninja. Have you played against any Ninja players, either Fi or Katsu?
Yeah, I mostly played against Katsu. Well, I played against Fi as well, but it was the early stages of this deck's development, and we didn't really know how to deal against to deal with Fi. But I tried against Katsu. I think we also tried together, and I had some very narrow losses, and I thought I just needed something more. That's why I teched against him with these rounds on me. I'm really not sure if it's the correct choice, but the reason behind it is the following: that okay, you give him one more card, and you take 3, 4, maybe even 5 damage away from him, but you also take out his own hit. His successful hit links, so he cannot draw with the mask. Okay,
Hmm.
you gave him a card, you didn't let him draw a card, but he deals less damage, and he deals less damage to your dragons. So at the round that you play this card, you capitalize on more dragons. So then you can be more oppressive and crunch down this life difference that made me lose the match.
Alright, but
You play,
it's.
especially against these decks, you try to play a marathon, not a sprint. So it's every round that you leave are more damage for him.
Yeah. So yeah, it felt like even though it's not, it doesn't look like an aggressive deck. The fact that you can block with 2 cards and your 2 cards translate into both some damage and a threat on the board. I mean, what felt like playing against Dromai is really strong. So, what would you say would the sideboard look like against a Ninja, a Fi, or a Katsu?
Against the ninja, you don't really change many things. You prefer Tomeltai to Dominia because of the mask. You want to
Alright.
break the mask if possible, especially if it's early game. If it's late game, you usually cannot keep 4 cards in hand in order to play Tomeltai. And you also choose the 3 these rounds on me and take out Necria again because you probably won't be able to play it.
Okay, so you don't like. Alright, and I'm guessing against you, of course, you don't run with Ghostly Touch, you play with the
No,
Silver
no,
form.
no.
Oh, yeah.
It
Uh,
will never get more than 2 or 3 counters, especially if you play. But
yeah, it's interesting having all these zero cost 4 block cards in the deck. That you have all these the Fate Foreseen, the Sing Belows, and the Sand Cover, one card that I was totally off with. But it feels really, if you want to play really fast game, it's pretty not easy. It looks like you can block a lot of these oppressive damage that probably ninjas try to go for.
yeah, and yes, some cover. I understand the doubt around it, but it can protect you against dominate or big chunks of arcane damage from Kano, let's say, and you can also play it in your turn to get go again without wasting an ash.
Okay, so we have a comment from Vadak says that this round on me doesn't reduce attack against your dragon, does it? Because it names targeting you, and that's correct. Yeah, this round on me is not
Yeah,
it's not
that's
preventing
right.
it.
That's right. Yes, yes, I stand corrected. So yeah, against you, not against your dragons. Yes.
Yeah, but still against fire, I'm guessing it's enough to prevent more damage
Yeah, yes.
than
Still,
buffers.
even without this plan.
All
Again,
right.
again, I will have to test it more in many more games to see if it actually gives you that much of an advantage. But I liked it in theory.
Mhm. Well, I think it's the same for everybody. That everybody felt that Fi should be more represented than what it was actually was during RTNs. I don't know in other areas, but here in Greece we had like zero Fis on the like one player played Fi on the RTN or something like that. So yeah, it's a good consideration for the future. So
Yes,
and Vadak says again, if I feel like it's a huge in the mirror match where the Ash Wings become useless against you. So, since we started talking about the mirror match, let's take Illusionist. How do you think Dromai
yes,
is facing off against Illusionists?
yeah. So to answer to Badak, yes, but I would like it even more against Prism.
Hmm.
So if the Prism player has several shields, they cannot break my Ash Wings, and then on the following turn I can wipe them out. But yeah, also that against mirror. So the mirror is is very tedious. I think I played the mirror on turn three, and after 10, 15 turns, I can't recall anymore. We were at 38, 36
Oh God.
because we were both fighting for the board, and we had like three or four major board state changes. Uh, and because I had I think three Rake the Embers early in game. I think two red and one yellow. So I got some head start, a good head start. Um, then things changed. Things changed again, and it went like this until the very end. And at some point, like at 15 live, um, I managed to cement my favorable board and push to the win.
All right.
But
So you
very,
managed to end the game. It didn't went time, right?
yes, yes, exactly. Against Prism, if the Prism player goes for auras, for the aura build, I think you have a big advantage there.
You have an
Uh,
advantage. Okay.
yeah, the Dromai player has an advantage. So I guess for this matchup and against aggro matchups, now Prism players are gonna go uh, for Herald build. And Herald build can be a bit fast for Dromai. So that's why we play 8 pops.
All right.
And
So I'm guessing that's the reason why you had added the Findle's fighting spirit on the deck.
exactly. Because it's a 7, so you cannot triumph my popper out.
Hmm.
Um, and also, I will take as much life as I can. We already have 12 extra life, 3 Sigil of Solace, and 3 Oasis Respite if played at the correct timing, and 2 more for Fighting Spirit.
All the life in the world. Okay, so how do you feel against Prism then? You said favored against the Aura build and a bit behind against.
Um, yeah, some people say that Dromai is actually behind Herald Prism. I would say it depends on the luck of the opponent. Uh, I would go for a 50-50.
All right.
But I've played like 4 or 5 games against Herald Prism, so things could still change, of course.
Okay, so how would the sideboard look against a Prism player?
Um, you go for erase face instead of command and conquer because it cripples. Not instead, because command and conquer is a popper. You also play erase face and fiend as final spirit. But the erase face is the only card that you can actually play at some point, and not
Right.
only defend with,
Hmm.
because it cripples Prisms Go Again. You prefer Tomeltai because you want to pop the boots at some point. You don't go for Necria
Again,
because
poor
the
Necria.
mostly because it's the only card that you can that you can take out and not have too many cards in your deck. And also at some point you have to defend a lot, so it's probably very hard to play with its 3 cost. And that's it more or less.
And what cards are getting cutted in order to make room for these cards? Or are we
Okay,
going over 16?
okay. So at this point we're at 63.
All right.
If I had to take one out, it would be Billowing Mirage. It's
Billowing
very good,
Mirage.
but it's very good. It's very very good, but it's the only one that I could take out.
Okay, so you still run all the defense reactions and all the defense reactions are still in and all accessory spike,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
these cards are always in, right?
You still play your defensive game style.
All right. So, all right. Okay, and I'm guessing something similar with Dromai. Is there any notable change
Yes,
against
but
Dromai?
I would take out Sing Below and Fate for Sing instead, because it will mostly be a battle for the board. So most of the attacks would go to your dragons.
All right.
I wouldn't cut Necria. I would play both Tomeltai and Dominia.
Oh, so
Uh,
okay, all the big dragons are in.
yeah, and I didn't count now, but if I have space, I would also play these rounds on me. Uh, no, I don't have space. Maybe one to go to 61. The like
Okay.
61. Yeah.
All right. So okay, that's it with Illusionist. Let's move to another big contendant, the Runeblades. How is this
Yes.
deck doing against Briar?
Against Breyer, it's at 5-0.
Yeah,
It,
I mean
it's
that's the moment I was like, okay, yeah, you do all these cute things and you are on the hard stop of, okay, there is a deck called Briar, but for
yes.
some reason you managed to have a 5-0 against Briar. I just don't know what's going on anymore. I don't know.
Yeah,
I have no idea how a deck with 12 defense reactions just manages to win a Briar. I don't get how this is going on.
yeah. It was a surprise to me as well. So it has never lost against any Breyer. You just defend, and when Breyer cannot attack that much, you take some damage, you build your board, and you do this again after 2 or 3 turns. And at some point, you have chipped enough damage to to make it mandatory for your opponent to defend against your dragons. You the plan is to defend, get some dragons out at some point, and be at the safe 1-digit life. So you can keep one card at your hand at some point, a 0 cost with Go Again, or a Sigil, or even a Sun Cover if you don't actually use it against various attacks, to have Go Against and attack for 2, 3, 4 attacks. Even with Ashwings, it doesn't have to be big dragons. And at some point, the Briar player has to start defending. So his turn becomes much more awkward, and he cannot push through damage. But you probably can save a card at your hand to again attack for 3 or 4 attacks.
Alright,
So
so it's the same game plan again. Get your dragons out and let them do the
yeah,
work.
yeah, but it's much more. The logistics are much tighter against Briar with all this oppressive damage coming at you. And it's more satisfying when you actually get the win, of course.
Okay, so how would you say the sideboard would look like against a Briar?
Uh, Dominion, Optimal Time, and pretty much that's it.
So play all of the
Without,
defense reactions.
all of the defense reactions are in. Erase Face and Findals are out. Ghostly Touch is out. Tomeltai is out. And the 8 blues are out. Only passing Mirage, mostly to play it and not pitch it. Dominia, just because it's a 4 cost, and at some point you may play it, but you usually pitch it or defend with. If you catch a break and you can actually play Dominia, it's a huge advantage, but you usually won't get that chance.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're lucky enough and you have a and you're given the opportunity early game.
Alright, yeah, we see a lot that I think against an aggressive deck, having all these 3 armor cards and all these red defense reactions, and it should feel a bit weird for some decks to manage to get through a lot of damage. So I'm guessing it works out. So
Yes.
that's it with Runeblades. Should we move on? Are we done?
No, we're not.
Right. So how is the matchup with Viserai?
Yeah, the matchup with Viserai is worse than against Briar. All these rune chants are very, very impressive, and I mean, you know it firsthand. I lost against you
I
in
do.
the 4th round of the RTN. That was my only loss, and I was lucky enough not to play with you again in top 8 in the
Nah,
cut.
you missed me. You dodged me, man. The top 8. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Thanks to our very beloved Kano player, Nikos. uh, yeah, I've played 2 times against you against Viserai, and I've lost both. But I feel that is not that this verdict is not that definite. I don't think this deck always loses against Viserai. It has a disadvantage. I would put it at I don't know. Now after these losses, I'm at 65-35. But I think after both decks are tuned to fight each other, it would be at like 60-40.
60-40 with yeah,
Yeah,
with Viserai
Viserai
being
on top.
60 and 40 on.
Yes, yes. I think that would be a bad matchup for Dromai. But if you have 1 or 2 bad turns, which you didn't, I can push through some damage and keep you off your 4-card hands. And against Viserai, of course, I play all my blues because of your rune chants. So I get these 8 cards in. I take out Command and Conquer. I take out Invoke Necria. And I haven't yet decided if I should get Billing Mirage out, all of them, or just 1 or 2 of them play with 61 or 62. Reason says that I should play with 60, of course. And against you, I think Invoke Dominia would be better
Yeah,
than Tomal.
in order to disrupt some of the gear. No, in order
Yeah,
to no, 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 you don't have
no,
any
no,
gear to disrupt.
to
Yeah,
disrupt your hand.
to
To
disrupt the
disrupt your
card.
hand.
Yeah, not the gear. So, now that we've pretty much talked about most of the aggressive decks, do you feel that is the new defensive deck of the town Dromai? Because that's now that I'm seeing the deck a bit more closely, it looks like it has a huge defensive cell to be able to play all these defensive 3 Fate for Sin, Sink Below, Oasis Respies, Sand Cover. I mean, all these 0/4 block cards.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, I think it kind of is, since it really destroys all of him, at least the way we see it now.
So far, yeah.
Uh, yeah. So yeah, I think this would be the most prominent defensive deck, at least in this early meta. I don't know,
Alright,
but
alright.
but I think it's a good deck. I don't think it's really TRS, but I don't think it has an auto loss, which
Yeah.
is something I really like.
Oh,
Even against the brutes, which are considered to be difficult matchups, I don't think it's an auto loss.
okay, so let's talk about the brutes. How do you feel the match is going on against Levia and all uh,
Yes,
Reiner?
and Ryan. So this is the class I've tested less against. I think I played one or two games. One with Reiner, which I lost, but it was an early version of this deck. And I don't think I've played against Levia. I think Reiner would be the worst matchup for
Yeah, a bit
for,
naturally. I
for,
mean, not
for,
allowing
for
you
my
to block.
yeah, mostly because of intimidate. Okay, still you have your instance, but I don't think you can really raise him. So maybe if you can endure 4, 5, 6 rounds and be able to have a board, then I guess you can start attacking more. Of course, he will pop your phantasm attacks. That's why you need ghostly touch. But the hope is that Reiner is less effective with 3 cards, much less effective with 3 cards than with 4.
Alright.
Uh, so you can slow him down and then have an oppressive board and go into a game that looks more like a fatigue game against Bravo or something like that. But again, he can intimidate you out of the game at some point. So you have to be really careful, not let your life total drop that much. So I think it will be the most difficult matchup.
Alright, so probably one of the worst matchups, yeah. So what do you think the sideboard would look like against Reiner?
Okay, you should you have to include ghostly touch. So you have to include semblance and at least 3 blues, 3 more blues. So again, I guess you will take Necri out. It doesn't make sense to keep her around because with such with all these big attacks of Reiner, it's just an attack away from vanishing, and you won't get your worth in Ash tokens. So yeah, Necri out and Command and Conquer out.
Alright, so and about the blues, are you playing this round on me or sweeping blows or all of them? All of the blues are in.
Uh, well, I would play the 2 sweeping blows and 1 disarms on me. Again, I will probably never use them, especially disarms on me. It's just a blue with 3 block.
Alright.
Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
so moving on, let's talk about the Ranger. Let's talk about Lexi.
okay. I initially thought that Dromai would be very, very favored against Lexi. Now I'm not so sure. I still think Dromai has the upper hand, but a Lexi like more like Yuki's one, which is low on fuse, on ice fuse, and more aggro, can actually take advantage if it can if it can set 2 or 3 good turns, then it could probably race you out. If it doesn't, though, it's the whole all this dragon army that you have on board is very very impressive. And
Yeah, I mean, like Lexi naturally runs like zero pops, and that's probably one of the reason as well that she had very
yeah,
big problems with Prism before
but
the uprising.
even if she does run, let's say, 3 command and conquer, again, you have the advantage. Maybe Lexi can race you out, but that's the only
Okay,
case.
okay. So you think that's the only out of Lexi trying
Yeah,
to kill you? All right. So again, you so a bit. No, we haven't talked about yet another popular deck that's been going around, which is Wizards. What about Kano and Icelander?
yeah. I think Dromai is very favored against both heroes. I would say especially against Kano. Um, you don't have to rush anything there. You have to get some Ashwings up, use all your blues to block arcane damage, and I mean if the wizard has a good run, you have to block and block and block arcane, and at some point you have some dragons out that stay there. Wizard cannot block them. Not can block them. He cannot destroy them that easily. He has only a few cards that can. He doesn't play many poppers. Um, Maybe he can take for sins, but this is just gonna um, delay the inevitable. And I think you can sail to win relatively easy in a relatively easy way.
All right, yeah, I
Against
mean,
Iceland,
traditionally, wizards do not have a good time against illusionists because most of their
yeah,
mechanics they cannot interact with them.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
how would you say the sideboard would look like against a wizard?
Okay, you would uh, get Tomeltai instead of Dominia to break the boots if possible, or force him to use them then. And I would also use all 8 of my blues. You can say goodbye to to Fate for Sin and Sin Below. We can live with Oasis Respite and some cover, and you can also take Necri out if needed.
Again, Necria is not a girl.
Yeah.
Again,
Yes, and that's pretty much the same with Icelander. Again, you have a favorable matchup. Icelander should be very focused on the matchup sideboard wise, and also have a good run and have and she must be very lucky to stand a chance against this deck. I played actually against a good Icelander player in my top 8 match, and he had again he had a very smooth run, meaning that he got the cards he wanted when he wanted them. And then uh, I made a mistake at some point, and then he made one as well at the 2 final rounds, and I won. But it
oh,
would be but it was very very close. Uh, so both mistakes considered, the Islander deck couldn't beat the Dromai deck, even with a good run of cards.
all right. Yeah, I'm not. I cannot say I'm surprised to hear that Icelander is not having fun playing against Dromai.
Yeah, yeah.
So, would you like also to talk a bit about the games you've played on the RTN?
Sure. Yeah.
So,
Uh,
Spaz Freak asks if Burn Them All is main deck.
Burn them all is main deck. Yes, Burn them all is one of the best cards of the deck, especially against the fatigue matchups with the guardians, with the brutes. It presses so much damage. I think against guardian, it pushed through. I don't know, 13, 14 damage.
Yeah.
Took two copies of them.
All right. So, let's talk about your games in the RTN.
Yes. So as I mentioned earlier, first round was against Yanis, our friend that started this deck, and he played Bravo, and we went to finish. I went to win with 2 or 3 cards remaining, just on time. Uh, I think that Yanis wasn't at zero, but he conceded because he would lose in the following round.
Hmm.
So and this was a very tight match. I guess after some practice, we can we could achieve not going to time.
Yeah.
But we were both new to this matchup. Second
But sorry,
round,
did you feel favored playing against an OG Bravo?
no, no. I felt that I had a very slight disadvantage, but nothing that really tips over the balance.
All right. All right. So second round.
Uh, Second one was against Kano. That was relatively easy because Kano has a very difficult time against Dromai. Third round was the mirror we talked about.
Hmm.
This very tedious game, which has some really important decisions. It's a strategic game. It's not just boring, but you need some effort not to go time. We didn't, and we were both very proud of that. But yeah, so that was a win as well.
Well,
Then
yeah, I mean, Dromai feels like naturally a pretty slow deck, so it's only
yeah,
natural again to be a slow matchup during the mirror. But what do you feel was the? Did you feel it was like a least thing, or what do you cards would like to see more against the mirror?
uh, I really liked my pops there.
Hmm.
The fact that they had 8 pops,
Yeah,
to
the
be
Command and
honest.
Conquerors, Erase Face, and Fighting
Yes,
Spirit.
and I really like that I got to play all 6 of my Rake the Embers.
All right.
That was 15 ass wings. That was very important. And it was important not to in every matchup, but especially on this one. Uh, you would never want to start your turn without an ass wing, without an ass
And Nas
token.
token, yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and then in the fourth round, I played against you, against Viserai. Uh, that was a fast game. Again, I lost that one. And on round 5, I played against the Herald Prism, and I was fortunate enough to see some of my pops and build a board state that could actually uh, you know deal this oppressive damage at the late game to make him defend. And Fiendal's fighting spirit was useful there because at some point he attacked with a Hell of Triumph that I really didn't want to either to hit or to spend 2 cards from my hand defending. So that came in very handy. I also got a life. So yeah, and then on the top 8, I
And
faced the
again,
Briar.
sorry for interrupting. Again, you felt like you were a bit favored against the Prism, even though it had the Herald build. How did the game?
I think it was a 50-50 matchup.
All right.
At least from my experience against this deck. Then in top 8, I faced the Icelander deck I told you about earlier. And then for top 4 in the final, I faced two Briars.
Yeah.
And it was, especially with Briar, it was this same thing that you defend, some breaks, some small attacks, blah, blah, blah. And at some point,
But at some point,
you,
the dragons take over.
yeah, and when you pivot and they have to defend, it's over. It's more or less over.
All right.
There is no whip for you. You have it there. If you can play a red card, you can always attack for so many for so many attacks.
Okay, so that pretty much wraps it up. How do you feel the deck? How do you feel the Dromai deck will evolve? Do you think this is the closer to the final version? Do you think the metagame will have to move with Dromai in mind? How do you feel about Dromai in the upcoming meta?
I think Dromai will be relevant. I can't yet say if it's gonna be that oppressive. Um, Also, I don't think this deck is the final form. I think the staples are pretty much there, and we really need to work on our sideboard. But the 55, 60 cards you see on the left of your screen will be more or less them, and on the at least for this kind of build. Okay, this defensive slow deck, and then we can work on the sideboard if this runs on me is okay. How things will work with semblance, because you that's a slow thing to play. You have to wait both for a break from your opponent, so you are able to hold a 3 or 4 card hand, and then you also need a blue and 3 more resources for Ghost Touch to attack and to play semblance. Yeah, so it's more or less that the main deck is kind of fixed, and we have to say about the sideboard.
All right.
Now, Dromai will be there, and even if it wasn't a good deck, uh, dragons.
Yeah,
so,
dragons.
so many people would play it. So you would have to take against Dromai,
So do
and
you
if
think it's good enough to revive the OG Bravo? Because OG Bravo will have, let's say, with a bit of tuning and tech and the sideboard plan against Dromai, will it be relevant enough to play a deck like OG Bravo?
uh, I'm not sure. How do you think Bravo performs against the aggro decks, against um, Briar and Viserai and Fi?
Yeah, but I mean that's what I'm saying. If we
Yeah.
think that Dromai will be there, will there still be like half of the field of aggro decks if they have a bad matchup with Dromai being a naturally defensive deck?
Well, if Dromai proves to be very very relevant and a good deck, I think we would see more Viserais than Briars at the Runeblade front. So probably more Bravos, yes.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay, so that wraps it up.
yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. Congratulations again on winning the Road Nationals and
Thanks, man.
securing that invite.
Yes.
So again, thanks everybody for being here. If you'd like the content, leave a like, follow, and subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube to see more stuff like this. So again, thank you for being here and See you around. See you next time.
See you guys.
Bye.